From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
I am so delighted to introduce Gail Godwin today because she's the author of one of my favorite novels, Evensong, which I've been recommending to people since it was published 10 years ago. Gail is impossible to pigeonhole. Her career has been so successful across so many different forms: novels, short stories, nonfiction, memoir, and even opera. And without discounting the role of the imagination, it's safe to say that Ms. Godwin is an artist who uses her own life beautifully as an inspiration for her work. She was raised in North Carolina, where her mother was a college teacher and a journalist and a writer of romance stories. She went to a Catholic school, which many of us now feel we know something about from her new novel, Unfinished Desires. After earning a journalism degree at Chapel Hill, she worked as a reporter for the Miami Herald, an experience that inspired her new novel, Queen of the Underworld. And as she worked for the U.S. Travel Service at the Embassy of London, which you can get a flavor of from her novella, Mr. Bedford. In 1967, she went to the Iowa Writers' Workshop, and in 1970, she published her first novel, The Perfectionist. 3 times she's been a finalist for the National Book Award. She's received a Guggenheim Fellowship and 2 National Endowment grants. What we look for in Gail Godwin's writing, and what we always find there, is deep insight into the human heart and a willingness that's all too rare nowadays to consider the spiritual issues that motivate, inspire, and challenge thoughtful people. Please help me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Ron Charles. I've been an admirer of Ron Charles for quite some time. He used to be the book editor of the Christian Science Monitor, and then now he's the book editor of the Book World, Washington Post. And he has taken on this great new risk, I think. And if you haven't seen them yet, he's done 3 that I know of. Is that right, Ron? 5. He's done 5 videos, and you can get them through Washington Post, either Book World or Style, in which he reviews books, and there's a lot of very professional film work. So I recommend that. That's one way to keep up with our interesting times. I was very lucky to be invited to the first book festival, and that was 9 years ago. It was on a Saturday like this, and it was September the 8th, 2001. And things were they were different. It's like looking at everything back then in sepia tones. They had us read the night before. Some of us read, and then we met President and Mrs. Bush in the green room. And I'm being an author who likes to stay at home as much as she can. I was noticing details so I could take them back home. And I noticed that many of the men were wearing, oh Lord, can you pick those up for me? They were wearing their black ties, their tuxedos, but they were wearing black cowboy boots. And when I spoke with Laura Bush, who actually just finished her performance next door as a writer, she said she was always nervous about these festivals. She had started a very successful one in Texas when George W. Bush was the governor. And she wanted to try to bring it to Washington. And she said, the thing that I have to do is worry a lot to make sure it goes well. And she must have worried a lot, because it all went well until the following Tuesday. But meanwhile, we're still on Saturday. So the next thing, then we went over to the Library of Congress, and the president was there, vice president, all the cabinet. I sat at the table with the Attorney General, John Ashcroft, And I had just given a reading from Evensong. It's that scene where Margaret she's a priest and she's a chaplain in a school for rich delinquents, really, is what it is. And she tells them if they want someone to come and say night prayers with them, to make a sign and put it on the door that says NP. And that's how she knows. And then she's surprised at how many people really put work into their signs, their works of art. So at the table for 8, Mr. Ashcroft said to me, I wish somebody would make me a night prayer sign that I could hang on my door. This is still September 8th. And so when I got home and recovered from all this extroversion, I spent several days making him a beautiful night prayer card. And to do this, you want to have a design that doesn't leave any white space, so everything is filled in. And then while you're doing it, you think of that person. And then I wrote him a letter and I mailed it off. And I got a letter back several weeks after 9/11. And it said, thank you so much for thinking of me, and so on, and wishing me well. Not a word about the prayer card. And I have a feeling, I did it in colored inks, and they may have looked suspicious. I have a feeling he never got it. Anyway, that was 2001. And then there's quite a different feeling at this one for me. For instance, at the Washington Post breakfast this morning, well, we had it at the White House then, 9 years ago. And I remember somebody said, if you want the ladies' room, you go down, we were in the East Room, go down that long hall and turn left and go down the stairs, and there's a nice ladies' room. And I went wandering off all by myself, and sure enough, there was this beautiful room with all the portraits of all the first ladies, Eleanor, just as you come in. That's over. This morning, several writers spoke about the importance of being alone. Now, isn't that interesting? A big book festival, authors. Because that's when you read and that's when you write. I was cheered up by that. I did give a lot of time to what I might say to you today, what you would like to hear. I didn't write a speech, but lately in the last 5 or 6 years, I've developed this marvelous ability to just lie down flat in my bed and think in paragraphs. So I thought of what I wanted to say. I first wanted to introduce myself to you, whether you've read me or not. I am a seasoned writer. I have been publishing them for 40 years, writing them for longer. I've been supporting myself by writing novels for the last 30 years. And this summer has been very quiet. I had a book tour earlier in the spring, and then this summer was quiet. And I reached page 90 of my 14th novel. And that usually means that it's not going to die on me. Now, I came across this essay. I've read it before, but I looked it up online again. If you haven't read it, you must. It's just put up in Google, Orwell, Why I Write. And George Orwell wrote this classic essay about why he wrote. And here's the paragraph that just fascinates me. He says of a writer, his subject matter will be determined by the age he lives in, but Before he begins to write, he will have acquired an emotional attitude from which he will never completely escape. And I started thinking about that, and it's, what is my emotional attitude? And I have the feeling that it's something about wanting to escape from whatever confines I'm in, and at the same time, more and more realizing the precious gifts of the shadows to be found in those confines. As Mr. Franzen said just before me, that you keep writing your books to side with your friends and to fight your enemies. And an emotional attitude is certainly choosing your friends and fighting your enemies. I think that the characters in books and the human characters that attract me most are the ones who they always have a mystery to them, and they're never completely solved. There's something unfinished about them. Which brings me to my latest novel, my 13th novel, called Unfinished Desires. I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes, but I first have to tell you that this novel was first called something else. It was first called something else in the contract. It was first called something else with the first cover, and the publisher just kept saying, please, 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 please change the title because nobody's going to buy this book. Everybody who's been to a Catholic girls' school is going to say, no, I don't want that book. I don't want anything to do with nuns who hit you with a ruler. And at first I tried to argue my point, and I said, well, no nun ever hit me with a ruler. The original title of the book was, and I wish it still were, The Red Nun, A Tale of Unfinished Desires. And so we finally compromised on Unfinished Desires. They thought that that would do well in all the different venues where it had to go. And I'm afraid that some people might have bought Unfinished Desires and hoped there was something else in it. But there's enough of that, too. This novel was born in me during an online interview with an editor who was asking me. He was doing an anthology on his favorite stories, and he had picked my one ghost story called Dream Children. And he was asking me about my favorite kinds of ghost stories. And I said, my favorite probably in the world is one called Playmates by E.M. Burrage, an English writer. And my second favorite is Chekhov's The Black Monk. And I said, I like ghost stories that are psychological, where you feel the character is being haunted from inside and may not know it. And quite a few people in my novel, Unfinished Desires, aka The Red Nun, are haunted. Now, I went to a school that looked like the one in Unfinished Desires. If you want to look at that school, I tried to make a drawing of it. It's on my website, gailgodwin.com. Go onto that and then click on Gail's art. And then click on The Red Nun. And you will find a picture of this school. And I added some gloom and some clouds, but it's that school. It was an old hotel in Asheville, North Carolina. It was on top of a mountain. It used to be a sanatorium. Then part of it burned down. Then it was an orphanage. And then some nuns came from France and from England and bought it and started a school there. At first there was a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment, but then it became the school where everybody wanted to send their children. And the Bishop of North Carolina, the Catholic bishop, complained. He said, here we have this school run by Catholic nuns, and it's mostly Protestants and Jews who go to it. I'm really glad I went there because it set up a mood in me. I can still follow it in my sleep. I can follow the rooms. And there are several characters in there. I won't say they're autobiographical because one is a nun. She's an old nun. She's 85 years old. She's blind. She's trying to write a memoir of the school that will show her in a good light. And to make all this short, because we're going to have questions, through writing this book, I discovered, through working with Mother Ravenel, who's writing her memoirs in 2001, but she's going back to the school's beginning to 1908, she somehow resolves the issue in her between a rampant ambition, which I think I must have had, and a place for the spiritual life. So the only revenge I could get on my publishers for this change of title was, in the paperback, there's a place in the back where you have an interview with the author. And I said, I've had enough interviews with the author in the other books, so let's let me have a few characters interview me. And one of them is Mother Ravenel, and I have her just give me hell for changing the title of the book. I'm now open to questions and conversation. Thank you very much. How do you do that?
I have no idea.
I mean, I've been watching you, and it's very impressive. Does someone want to talk? Oh, okay. They're walking the mic over.
They told me to walk to the mic.
Well,
W-O-K?
to walk.
To the mic.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, that's different.
In Even Song, you had a beautiful paragraph there about longings and desire and the origins of it. And I was fascinated with that. That's the reason why I picked up Unfinished Desires.
Mm-hmm.
Are you expanding that particular concept of longings that are hidden and can be explained eventually in one's life?
May I take you with me on the rest of my trip?
Sure.
Actually, yes. Did everyone hear her question? Longings and desires, are you working on it? Are you still working on it? Yes, I am. And my new novel I've made even more of a pressure cooker with just a few people with longings and desires. Yes, I want to get really down in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to know who are some of your favorite contemporary writers, and what are you reading now?
I have just finished. I just hate to say this, you're not going to believe it, but I just reread Anna Karenina and War and Peace, and I'm rereading Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall with great envy. I read every book, every literary novel that comes out, when it comes out, because that's what I do in the evenings now. I read. I watch a couple of shows like the Rachel Maddow show or a few of those shows. And Masterpiece Mystery and Dr. House and Boardwalk Empire and Mad Men. That's about it. But
Thank you.
I think I have read every literary novel that's come out this year. And I've read, of course, Jonathan Franzen's Freedom. I was looking up my old interview that they taped for the first book festival, and someone was asking me, what have you been reading? And I said, I'm reading this new author called Jonathan Franzen, Corrections, and I'm rereading Jane Austen's Emma.
Oh.
So it's about the same, and I reread Elizabeth Bowen a lot, and my new novel, I will say, is my tribute to Henry James. I have been fascinated by the turn of the screw for decades, and now I'm going to write my turn of the screw with a bow to him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi,
Yes.
Gail.
Hi.
Hi. I attended the school, as you know, that you wrote about in Unfinished Desires.
What year were you? Or do you want, never mind.
No, I don't know. 56.
Oh,
And I've read it twice, actually. And I just really loved it. And I was wondering if you've had any response from people who might have recognized themselves in the novel.
well, no, but long before I wrote it, in fact, when I was writing another book, when I was writing A Southern Family, I wanted to get some information on that order, that religious order. And by mistake, my researcher put me in touch with the original Mother Ravenel, who did not get her claws into me because I left town before I got to her grave. But then she reconnected with me in her old age and my old age, and she started sending me tapes telling me how to write and what words to leave out.
I can see it now.
So I got an insight into her. It was very valuable that, we want to keep control over what we have. She wanted to keep control over one of her old girls. So she very much influenced me in terms of looking and seeing how much of me was in her and how she could have a spiritual life as well.
Good, thank you.
Hi. The
Hi.
protagonist in Evensong began in Father Melancholy's Daughter. Are there any other characters from your older books that you'd like to revisit and resurrect in a future work?
No, but I would like to resurrect Magda in The Good Husband. She's dead, even in the book. And there are certain kinds of characters that you don't finish with, like Unfinished Desires. There's a character called Maud, who's troubled right into her old age, so she doesn't get a start in writing until she's 70. And I'm doing another character like that in my new book, as a girl of 10, and she's alone with her summer guardian, who's a very peculiar woman, and that's the turn of the screw slant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Yes.
I have more of a comment and appreciation than a question.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
I guess I've been an avid reader since I was about 6 or 7, and probably been an avid reader of your works since you started writing.
Oh,
and,
thank you.
And am so, you're what inspired me to come down here on the mall today.
Oh,
And
I'll take that home with me, back to the convent.
So I'm just delighted to see your work progress and follow it. I have a couple other questions, but I'll write you an email. I presume on your
Email.
website there's some way to...
If you email me, just be sure and put Gail K. Godwin, because there's a
Okay.
lot of Gail Godwins. There's a tennis champion, there's a Brooklyn school teacher, there's a painter. So Gail K. Godwin at yahoo.com.
Okay, I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think that's all. That's our time. It's been a pleasure.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.